from markergeek.com, here with another Stamping Bella DT Thursday project for you. I'm recreating another of Sandy's projects from the blog. This is a double pocket card, and I've started out by taking a piece of 12 by 12 paper. This is graphic 45 from the Wizard of Oz collection that they did. It's quite old. I cut it to 11 by 11, scored on both sides to make 4 5.5-inch sections, folded and burnished all of those score lines, as you can see. At that point, you then want to decide which side of the paper you want to be visible as the front of the card. The side facing up will be the inside. So in this case, the poppy design was going to be the inside of the card, or the inside of the pockets. Then on the left side, you want to cut across the horizontal score line until you meet the vertical score line. Fold down the top left corner to about 2 inches from the center score line. So you can see here, I've grabbed my ruler and I'm just going to measure that and then fold down that top corner. After doing that, you then fold up the bottom right corner and bring it to both score lines and then burnish with a bone folder. Each time that I'm folding, I'm burnishing those fold lines and score lines with my bone folder. You can just about see, sorry I'm off camera, that yeah, I'm doing that with the bottom right corner. Then you want to take the top left square and fold it over onto the right side, and fold up the bottom half of the paper. And when you've done that, you need to cut off the final square that's left hanging over, and that should be the one on the left, and keep that one, set it aside for later. When that's done, you fold down the top pocket and open up the triangle and apply adhesive to the inside left before folding it back to adhere it. I used my favourite liquid glue for this, Fabri-Tac for Beacon adhesives. You could also use score tape or whatever liquid glue that you have on hand. And once that's done, you need to apply adhesive to the left side again along there. For some reason at this point I decided to switch to using score tape instead of my liquid glue. Can't remember why. Maybe I thought that it was going to be stronger, or perhaps maybe less messy. Maybe because it gives a more precise application of adhesive that wouldn't then affect the pocket. Then you need to fold that bit up and that forms your front pocket. And now to form the second pocket and close those side pieces up, you need to apply adhesive to the open sections at the top and the side, and then you will have 2 nice pockets. And when that is done, you need to cut a piece of card to 11.5 inches by 5 3/4 inches. And this will form the card base, which the front panel that we've just created will go on. I took my Martha Stewart scoreboard, which I've had for years, and scored at 5 3/4 inches to fold in half to make a 5 3/4 inch square card base. When the card base was ready, you then cut a piece of white card again to 5 5/8 of an inch by 5 5/8 of an inch, and use this to create the base for the pocket panel to make it a little bit sturdier. So adhere the pocket panel that you made from the pattern paper to the white panel that you've just cut, and this will create the card front. And then you need to adhere this piece to the base, to the card base that you've just scored and folded. And then it's time to decorate the pockets on the front of the card, just along those edges, which helps kind of define them and make it obvious that there's a pocket there. I used a border die from My Favourite Things, which I've had for a very long time. I think it may be discontinued now. But Sandy, in her tutorial, which I'll link to in the description below, used a punch. You could use any border die or punch, or maybe some paper tape or ribbon. Just something to embellish and decorate the edges. As you can see, I've left those die cuts longer than the card, which I will then trim down with scissors afterwards. I'm adhering those with my liquid glue. You could also use tape, whatever you have on hand. And just, I'm making sure that obviously, because the die cuts weren't as long as the front of the card, I'm just making sure that the join where the two die cuts on that longer piece meet will be hidden behind my main image die cut layer later on. When this is done, it's time to create the tags that will go inside the pockets. One of them is a tag which has a pocket on it, which you could pop a gift card or something in. I used a tag die set that I have from My Favourite Things, which I've had in my stash for ages. You could use any larger tag die or cut tags yourself to size. And you need to cut a couple of those. I trimmed mine down because they were a little bit longer than I wanted. I tested them out in the pockets and found that I wanted them to be a little bit shorter. And then you will cut them diagonally. I've also cut them from the patterned paper as well, the same patterned paper that I used for the pocket panel on the front. This is actually from that square that was left over that I put aside. So I cut one tag from that and then cut it diagonally in half to apply to the front of one of the die cut tags from white cardstock, and that creates the tag with the pocket. And just adhering it along the edges. You could use tape for this. I used my liquid glue. As you can see, that forms a little pocket. And now I would normally use my crocodile for this to just punch a hole at the top, but I was lazy and I didn't want to hunt it out of the drawer. So I just used a piercing tool on a foam pad and pierced a couple of holes, which I'm going to thread some twine through in a minute, just to add some interest. I'm just fully adhering this piece down, not to create a pocket, just to create some interest on that tag, and I'll re-pierce the hole. I decided it looked a little bit boring as just a plain white tag. So I'm re-piercing that hole. And now just making sure that they fit nicely. And it's time to start creating the front panel, the image panel. So I die cut some white cardstock, and actually here I'm using, I think it's, yes, I'm using the white cardstock that I use for my card bases, which comes from Paper Mill Direct here in the UK. It's a nice weight of card and it's got a nice texture to it, which actually works really nicely with coloured pencils. I'm stamping with black hybrid ink from My Favourite Things onto the cardstock. using my Misty. As you can see, I'm using my acetate sheet to line things up so that I get the stamp where I want it. And I'll do the same thing with the sentiment. The image is Tiny Townie Garden Girl Poppy from Stamping Bella. And the sentiment set is the Garden Girls floral sentiment set that goes with all those beautiful Tiny Townie Garden Girls. I'm not showing you the colouring in this video because, again, it would be really long, and I wanted to focus on talking a little bit about the coloured pencil colouring process, as I know a lot of people have been asking for more coloured pencil videos. So that will actually be Monday's video. I've got something else to show you on Saturday, so that will actually be Monday's video. So if you're interested, keep an eye out for that. And I will show you in detail how I coloured Poppy using my Polychromos pencils. Here I'm just tying that twine through just to add the interest to the tags. And I'm creating a sort of reinforced die cut here by just adhering that image layer on top of another die cut. I've used, for the die cut circles, I used the Stitch Circle stackables from Lawn Fawn. Here I've grabbed some foam pads to pop that up on the front, and just making sure that where I place the foam pads isn't going to cross over and end up preventing that pocket behind from opening. I want to be able to obviously slip the tag in behind without anything getting in the way. So I'm just there figuring out where it's going to go and then adhering it down. And popping those tags in behind. And at this point I then decided I'd like to embellish the card a little, although I do like to keep things fairly simple. I am loving the Tonic Nouveau glitter drops at the moment, and this I think is the White Blizzard colour. It dries clear so that you can see the colour from whatever's behind. So it's a really nice way to add some subtle interest. So I'm adding that around the image and then also on the pattern paper. And that's it. All the links to Sandy's tutorial, my own blog post, will be in the description below. Thank you for joining me today. If you've enjoyed this video, please do like and subscribe, and I will catch you next time.